Yeah,
Yeah, I remember the video you released, and that kind of went viral. That was like the
yeah,
first time I heard of Animbot, because I don't use. I'm like one of those weird people that don't use any like I don't download anything online to use when I animate. I'm very bare bones. Like anything that I use, I write myself for my own necessity as well. But then I remember seeing that video you released, and then it caught fire. Like everybody was like, "Oh, I gotta have this! Like this is so cool."
mhm.
And it gave a lot of credibility to like the tool itself because you were at Sony and you kind of gave the backstory. And yeah, like did the video come first and then the Facebook, or was it the other way around, or
I
same
think it was
time?
I think it was at the same time, more or less. I did that. So I wanted to make that uh, release. That was another, as I briefly mentioned before, the make it or break thing, where I did not only the group and the beta, but I released a Patreon page as well. Like the video was talking about that of the Patreon thing, and the Patreon uh, was not supposed to be something to earn. It's not like uh, I didn't need that money exactly. It was more like a thermometer because one thing is like people saying like, okay, I want this, I want this. Another thing is like I want this and I will pay for it, right?
Yeah,
So the Patreon was more like this, like how many people really like can afford paying and really like want to pay, like are you know um that's what I needed. Like I needed to know that because
mhm.
that was another moment that I said, okay, if that goes bad, I'm just gonna stop it and go, because at that point where a Patreon page, that was when my health was really bad. Like I
Oh
was,
no,
yeah, was
yeah,
going really bad, and I needed to know if that would be worth it, you know,
yeah,
like, and then was awesome. Like Patreon, like I got a lot of Patreons like paying, and I remember the what I did was I was going to give that money back to them
mhm.
as a
Oh
form
wow.
of discounts when the tool would come out.
Yeah.
So if somebody would give me, say, $5 a month, I would give, I don't remember exactly how much, but it was like a double in discounts
Yeah, yeah,
afterwards. And it was something like people were investing on it. If you think about it, they were
mhm.
investing their money in something that they didn't know if it were even going to exist,
Mhm.
right? And then it took another year and another 13 months after that release of that beta, but was okay. Like I was working at uh, Stellar Creative Lab, and then I found a good balance at that point. I moved close to the studio. It was like a 15-minute commute, so I had more time. I was working like in the mornings every day pretty much, and then the whole Friday, and the things start happening. Like I could give a good push by then, but it
Yeah,
was a lot more work, of course, because I needed to code and I need to deal with the Patreon thing because it's not
yeah,
easy. Like you get emails all the time, and then you need to find how you're going to manage to give the prizes afterwards. Like
Yeah.
how do I keep track of it? All of this is like extra work that I had to do, but it was necessary, right?
yeah.
As a thermometer thing that I mentioned. I, and then that happened like 1 year after that. I think it was 2019. It was January the 6th or 7th. I think it was 7th when I released officially. Like, okay, now the beta is over, and that's the official version, the first one.
Yeah.
It's not like it's gonna be the end of of coding. Quite the opposite, of course, but it was the release, and then was great, like because people were already using it, so there was a no-brainer for a lot of people to just go in and use it for good.
Yeah, that's funny because it feels like I've been using it for so long, but it's actually when you say 2019, I'm like, oh, that's not too long ago. Like
Yeah.
for the official
Two
release.
years.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it felt like a lot longer. Yeah, that's crazy.
A lot happened in the last few years.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, like, is there like a favorite tool that you like in Animbot? Like one that I don't know that you're very proud of coding, or the one that yeah, it's like near and dear to your heart, I guess.
The sliders in general.
Oh, yeah.
Like I like the way that you can pick like a spectrum of things. Like you don't need to like you don't apply the thing at once.
Yeah.
Like you can go and then look at and have a visual feedback of what's happening. You know, like if you want a pose that's closer to that one, you don't need to apply and then undo it, apply a little bit less. No, you just slide. Oh, was too much. Okay, that's good. So that kind of control that I like, and I put a lot of work on those sliders. I think that's one of the main reasons where it took so long at the beginning, because that was sort of one of the first things that I was coding.
Mm-hmm.
And I was learning on the process. Like I did some courses like coding in Python and object-oriented programming. I didn't know anything about that. I did some Qt courses as well, because I needed all that combination of the user interface need to be intuitive, you know. So the sliders, I wanted to do something very not unique in a sense of just for being different, but I wanted something like very clean, but at the same time that you could do a lot with just that. So the slide, that's why I put like a lot of preset buttons, and at the same time can slide, and you can, you know, like a lot of those little details, but
it definitely shows. It's like a very, very polished tool. As far as, you know, the sea of tools that are out there for Maya, it's like definitely one of the most polished ones. I'm curious, like you just use Python like mainly for all this stuff, like you don't C++ or anything, or?
No, just Python pretty much.
That's amazing. Yeah, because like all the Python tools that you normally see out there for Maya, it's they all like have a similar look and a similar feel, and they all kind of like, I guess, use the native Maya kind of stuff. But you've obviously like really pushed like the Python and shown like what's actually possible to write within Maya.
Yeah, I didn't know that was even possible to start with. I knew that with A-Tools, I had those widgets that was like, okay, you want a slider, there's a code for a slider, and that's it. You cannot customize it in any way, like with the Maya one. Is that one, you can do some customizations, but not much. And it's horrible because the knob of the slider is like tiny. It's super hard to click on it. That's the one on A-Tools, like that super tiny one, because it. And then I learned that that's actually a Qt part of this. It's so rich. Like the Maya itself uses Qt for the, I think since Maya 2012, if I'm not mistaken. It uses the UI interface with Qt itself. So it's very natural to build something with it. In Maya, it goes pretty well with it. And you can do anything. Like I didn't know that we could actually build our own widget if you want to. Like you have, you can do like, because all of those ones that are there for you to use, like if you want a slider, the Qt has a slider, and then it has some customizations that you can do with the slider, but it's kind of a packet thing. Like, okay, this is a slider, that's it. And that slider itself is something that if you want, you can code yourself from scratch. So every single thing you can do, yeah. So you can do stuff like it's like very like raw. For example, you can get what happens if you click on something. What happens if you release the pointer? What happens if you hover the mouse over something? Or you have all of those signals that you can grab and do stuff with it. So if you think about like a button, is something like this. Like you have a drawing of a rectangle, let's say, and then when the mouse goes over it, the color turns a little bit brighter. And then when you press, there's another drawing thing going on, which looks like the button is being pressed. And then all of those things, like you can program the way they want.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool.
So powerful. Yeah. I guess in a weird way, like learning Qt, because all the documentation is all C++. So I feel like by the time you learn Qt, you feel like, oh, maybe I can actually code in C++ if I really needed to try.
Yeah. I think a lot of help that I found on Google are C++, but you can use it because the conversion to Python is very, very similar. So a lot of like pretty much everything in Qt you can use in Python without much effort to translate that. If you grab like a piece of code in C++, you can easily like convert to Python. The Qt part of it.
The Python wrapper is quite similar. It's like very almost the same. Sometimes I'm reading code and then I'm Googling Qt code and I don't realize whether I'm reading the C++ code or the Python code anymore. Sometimes I'll come across something and then I'm like reading it and then halfway through I realize, oh, this is written in Python. And it's like a surprise because normally it's in C++, but it's kind of, your brain just kind of rewires itself to start reading the code.
One part that was really hard about the coding was at the same time, like that I was making it, I was learning it. So I wanted to do something, when you learn, okay, so now I can do this, like that realization that you had, oh, you can do this. So when I had that, I was fucked because I wanted to do that with everything now. So I had to throw away. Yeah, I had to throw away a lot of things, and then like a lot of like back and forth. I said, no, I know that's possible. And then it didn't work. But I know I can do it, and then it takes like forever to have something done that way. And that kind of thing that was good about doing at home, because in a studio you can't play around.
You don't have that. Yeah, you don't have the time to mess
you need
around,
to get something done, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the tools come out more like raw, like it's just a button, or it's it does the job, but it doesn't go like fancy or anything. It just
doesn't have all the bells and whistles. No sliders.
Yeah.
No good sliders.
And the hardest part of the slider as well was in order to make that interactive, like when you have a simple rig like the ones that Autodesk usually like show off their features, like the caching working great with a rig that has just bones. In a studio, like you have all those that feature quality rig with thousands of controls, and they are very heavy and all of that. And then the sliders to become responsive in a rig like that, like if you want to grab all the controls and and grab a tweener, for example, and try to find a pose, it was super hard because I had to go really into the Maya API to find what's the fastest way to do it, because I needed to squish all the maximum on the timing of that, because otherwise it would be, there's a lot of tools like that, like that's dependent on the lag and the usability of it, because the ideas are good. Like I had some ideas that I had to throw away because in reality I couldn't make it responsive enough to be useful. And that was my goal with the sliders, was to give like, it should be way fast. So if you compare A tools with Animbot is like 6 times faster, the sliders usually.
Yeah.
Because I found on A tools I was using Maya commands, which is good, but it's generally more slow than the API of Maya. That's you can use with Python. If you use with C++, I think it's even faster, but it's much harder to do as well, much more complicated.
So if you had a choice, I guess, because you seemed like you really enjoy this coding and whatnot, but if you had to choose now whether to be like an animator or a developer, or maybe animator. Like a TD, like an animator still. That's cool. That was a quick answer.
Yeah.
Why an animator?
Yeah.
And then
I don't know. It's just like I think I spent so many years like trying to get into the industry, like loving actually the process of going there and work. That's the thing that I like to do. I wouldn't work. I work for with coding on my own, but I wouldn't work coding for as a job, like for a studio, for example. I wouldn't enjoy doing that.
Yeah,
it's not something that I would do. But animation, yeah, I would do on my own or for a studio, and that'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. I thought there would be more like a more of a fight, like a conflict, but it was so clear. It was like, nah. Yeah. So, but then, so what is next? Like, what's next for you? Are you going to go back into a studio at any time, or are you going to be doing like just Animbot full time?
I actually don't know. I was thinking about that actually a few months ago. I don't know. I think definitely like at some point I will have to stop developing or no, like pass to someone else, or maybe even Autodesk. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to make it available forever in some way, either me being the one behind it or not. But I don't know. But I think that's more like at least like 5 or 10 years I'll still be behind it, because there's a lot of things that I want to do still with it. So and this year actually was last year. I think last year and this year was the best. The time that I had to go back and do it, work on it, because on the first year I couldn't do anything because there was so many other things that I had to do.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess your kids are older now too, so it's less like 100% hands-on.
Yeah, that plays a role as well. Yeah. And now like there's nothing like no emergencies with the tool, because there's so many versions. Like if one doesn't work, another will, and that kind of thing. Like there's no, at the beginning, like it was just one. So if someone found a bug, I had to fix it. Someone found something, I had to fix it, because there was no it was not time. There was not enough time for that being much reliable. Let's put it that way. But now, like it's just fine. Like studios are using it, people are using it. The licensing part is the other like crazy thing for me to code something like that, because I had never done something before, and everybody that I would go and ask for advice, they would say, "Oh no, with Python it's not possible to do it because you cannot hide the code," or there was always like some problem. And I'm talking about like very experienced guys replying that to me.
Yeah.
Guys that nowadays like work at Apple, for example.
I went
there was a guy that worked at
like,
Apple
with the licensing. That was like one of the most painful things to try to figure out, because a lot of it just there's not very much information out there.
There's a reason for it as well, because people, if somebody writes something like this, a major part that it works is because people don't know about how you did. If you explain how you did, it would be easy for someone that wants to crack it open to just do it. Not easy, but it would be easier. And then I forgot what was saying. Oh yeah, and it's also frustrating. Is the most frustrating part of license, because imagine like if you pay for something, you need it to work, right? So if something is not working, it's because the licensing it's a bug with the licensing, or it's an issue with it, and people get super frustrated because with reasons, right? So it's hard to make something that I hadn't done it before, and it's reliable enough for people to use it that way. And so the best decision of my life on that part was to make because I did a licensing for individuals, and I knew more or less what they needed. Like they needed it to work where there's no internet, and they need to work where there is internet. They need to work on their computer at home and their computer at work. So I kind of knew those necessities, but for a company to use it, I didn't know much. So at the beginning, I didn't launch the company version of it. But I knew that licensing that I was doing for individuals would not work for companies, because it needed to be something much more robust. Like they cannot afford like a licensing not working. You could like get sued, but if a studio wants to sue you for something like this. So I launched Animbot in 2019, but I didn't launch the enterprise version yet. Yeah, and I wanted to give some time for that to mature a little bit, and then find how I was going to do it. But then, like in the first few weeks, like a lot of companies were contacting me about it. So I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to rush with this." So that's why the first year I couldn't do anything, because I was implementing that licensing for companies, fixing bugs. I was still working at Stellar, so it was like super crazy. And I was dealing with the Patreon prizes thing.
Oh man,
it was all at the same time.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, and my daughter started crawling. So
wow.
Yes, so you were really busy. Yeah. Did you have any help at all, or was it just all you? Like,
no, it was just me.
Developers.
I mean,
I
had help from people like helping with the making some images for stuff that I needed for Patreon, and ideas and things like that. But like the really like heavy work and coding was just me.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, and I couldn't like afford like paying anybody as well to help. And even if I were to do something like that, it's not like you pay and then you forget. Like you have to manage that person as well. So sometimes it's even more time that you spend. And then I bought the licensing for companies. I bought from a company that was already like the industry standard for it. So I just implemented their system into Animbot and then it works super well. Like it's floating licenses. So if a studio has, say, like 100 animators, and they want 100, they want maybe just half of them use this tool, they can simply like put 50 licenses there, and they don't care about who is using it, because the limit is the simultaneous users, no matter which machine they're using.
So like I guess we have like one final question before we go into like our like quick speed rounds. Was when you look back now, because after hearing your whole story, are you amazed by what you've done? Like just
amazed?
Because how much you've done, like how many things you have to juggle. Are you ever like, wow, I think I did a lot during that span of time?
No, I don't think so. I feel because a lot of like almost all of this was in the very initial plan. Like all those steps that I wanted to go, and actually like there's so many that I planned that I didn't do. That it feels like, but I'm okay with it now. At the beginning, I wasn't, like I was very frustrated, but then now I'm okay with it. I said, okay, no, I need to take the pace, and I need to be open for changes. And
wow.
But I think overall, like I'm definitely how do I say, like I spent 2 years at the beginning without knowing if I did the right thing, like to leave my dream job company to do something that is not my passion, that's coding. My passion is animation, and I'm working 3 times more than I was, and then I'm not receiving any money from it. Like that those 2 years was something like that. And I was even like running the risk of people saying, "Nah, I'm gonna use a tool, so because I don't want to pay for it."
Wow.
I ran there, and there's a lot of people that still prefer, and that's fine. But I don't know if there were going to be enough people that would be willing to jump into this one that is a paid version instead. That would be enough for me to keep doing it without like worrying of having to stop at any time. Like I want to have that kind of freedom. And then that's something that I think I achieved, and that's something that it's good to have that answer. Because if it was the other one, awesome. I would,
that's awesome.
It would be
all
a
those
feeling
gambles
of
paid off.
Wow, that's so cool. It's so good that everything just like it worked out, and
but there's still a feeling of something, like I feel like I'm still in the process of it, and I still want to animate more. I think that's one thing that got me. I'm still frustrated about. It's not animating as much. So now, like just right now, like a few months ago, I started working with remotely with a guy, director that I worked in the past, that I really liked his work, and it's a work that I can do it right now that does not demand so many hours. So I'm starting to animate again. So that's a nice. I think now I'm in a nice spot. Like I can talk to you like that, and because the first year I would have said no to anyone. Like
You're just
Like
too
it-
busy.
Yeah, it was impossible.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, we got some quick questions. It's just a one word. It's a choice, just to see what you are as a person, who you are as a person, a little bit. So yeah,
I
that's
feel
You'll
like
get
I'm a
judged.
talk show
You'll
now.
get judged
Yeah.
on these questions.
yeah, you get
Heavily.
judged on these questions. Yeah. So,
Okay.
coffee,
I'll
black
put,
or with cream?
black.
Texting or talking?
Talking.
Xbox, PS4, or Switch?
Switch.
Music or podcasts?
Music.
Linux or Windows?
Linux.
Ah, nice. Work from home or work from studio?
That I would have to say 80% home, 20% work at a studio.
To the studio.
Okay, which
Nice.
which
I think that's
days?
where everybody's at.
Yeah, which days?
Probably not Friday or Monday.
Okay.
Like somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah. And the last one, what TV show are you currently watching and would recommend?
Whoosh. I'm usually watching more like movies. I haven't watched many like shows. But I would recommend The Office. Is a show
Nice.
that I would watch over and over again. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
It's a classic.
Yeah, this is yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, we want to just say thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to sort of have a chat with us. We actually was really excited to pick your brain. I use Animbot every day, so it's sort of nice to hear the backstory and how you created it and how it became what it is. And yeah, just thanks a lot. It's really awesome.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, I really like to talk about that because it's I know that people don't know, and it's I think it's interesting to learn about that a whole background thing. And there was one thing that I didn't mention that was a funny part of the story. If you have time, I can talk about that.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So when I said long story short, that Sony thing using A tools professionally, officially there was a moment of panic there for me where I went from Rainmaker to Sony, and I installed A tools to myself, and there was a few other guys that started working there with me as well. They were already using A tools, and I had put it on the internet, but not because I wanted to make it widely used or anything that was just because I wanted a place for other people that asked about it to download instead of me giving
sending it.
the file. And also I wanted to go in the studio and the tool would update itself every day. That if you had an update, it would update automatically. And then what happened was Sony hired a lot of people at once for Hotel 2 and Angry Birds. And then the thing spread like wildfire in the studio. And a lot of people didn't even know that the tool was brought by an animator. They thought, a lot of people thought that was a pipeline tool, like an in-house tool.
Yeah.
Because they just joined the studio, someone said, okay, I'll install this thing. And then the guy installed it, and then people were starting to send bug reports to the development team. That was the first time that I realized that people were using besides 6 animators that more or less that I knew about.
Yeah.
And it was when the head of the character pipeline, he tapped my shoulder like people don't talk. The things like at Sony, people don't talk to each other like in person. Like it's always like chat or a phone. You have a phone on your desk.
Yeah.
It's always like that. This guy, he came to me behind me and put me on the shoulder, and I look at him, and then he was like, "Oh, so you wrote this tool and A tools, I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah," and then I don't remember exactly the talk because when he said that was like a completely blur. Like I said, okay, I'm being fired now because it was a really like dry tone. He was not laughing at all. And afterwards, I learned that was because there was a problem with there was a bug that happened on a Saturday that kind of clogged the animation pipeline somewhere.
Yeah.
And one of the tools involved was the A tools. So they, at that moment was when they started to take that seriously. Like they wanted to remove, like pipeline wanted to remove, but animators were so addicted to it.
They fought for it.
Yeah, imagine like a bunch of addicted people like fighting back. Oh, you're not gonna
give me the tool.
No.
Yeah. A tools.
That's so
and
good.
then that's why like it was like a month or so of that fight, that internal fight, and then they decided to keep it. So it was not easy, but it was good.
I think that's.
I thought I was going to be fired because that guy, he talked to me like for that 5 minutes or so, and then he turned away. I was just waiting for the email. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy how like you created this. I guess like
this movement.
Yeah, this movement.
Made a lot of enemies there.
Like, have you ever like anybody at the studio go up to you and be like, "You're the one who created A tools"? Like you might, this person might have been sitting next to you, and were they like ever, surprised that you're actually the one who created the tools that everybody's using right now?
Once in a while, it used to happen that when someone new would join the studio and were using the tool, they would come to me and say that.
That's great. That's cool. Thanks, man. We really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks for watching or listening to our content. If you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again. Peace.